All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jumoke Dada, and I am the project manager for the Making Space initiative and CyberBase, led by our Street Cybersecurity and Emerging Threats program. The Making Space initiative launched with a pledge to increase the diversity of talent in the in the cybersecurity industry. Last year, this time, we held the first event. And at that time, there were roughly over 400,000 jobs that needed to be fulfilled, according to CyberSeek. 1 year later, if you take a look at the stats, the amount of jobs that have gone unfulfilled have almost doubled, which means there's still a lot of work to do to build the talent pipeline. And there's even greater work to be done to increase the diversity. So we have the Making Space Pledge that is comprised of over or close to 150 coalition partners. And the goal, again, is to help spread the word and the need for more representation at panels, on conferences, and media segments. And to help with that, we've created something called CyberBase in partnership with Share the Mic in Cyber. And it's an online resource list featuring Black cybersecurity professionals, many of whom are going to be speaking with you today. We invite you to nominate a cybersecurity professional to join CyberBase. Definitely take a look at the Making Space Pledge and invite you to join us. So without further ado, I'd like to turn over today's discussion and program over to Davin Jackson, who will now introduce today's speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jumoke, for having me, and welcome everybody. My name is Davin Jackson. I am the host of InfoSec Unplugged. I run Alpha Cybersecurity, which is a cybersecurity content and media site. And I'm also a senior penetration tester and team lead for an offensive security operations for a company out of Ohio named Vigilant. But I'm super excited to be here today and introduce all of our panelists here. So we're going to hop right into it. So what I want is for all the panelists to briefly introduce yourselves, talk about how you got started in cybersecurity. Mumbling over my words. So let's start with Charles.
All right, good day, everybody. My name is Charles Nwatu. I have the privilege of working at Netflix, currently leading out their security, technology assurance, and risk program. I got started in cybersecurity back in college, decided I wanted to do something in tech, and sort of been riding that wave ever since and thoroughly have enjoyed it.
All right, next up we have Sandra, sorry.
No worries. Hi, everyone. My name is Sandra Jimatoken. I'm based out of Atlanta. I see a lot of people in Atlanta in the chats. Go us. How I got started, I actually studied liberal arts in college, so I didn't really have a lot of insight or experience into cybersecurity, and I definitely didn't picture myself when I thought about cybersecurity. But I did get my foot into the door in IT at Coca-Cola. And I really got my cyber experience with a big four company, Ernst & Young, and just kind of having a lot of client-based work, project-based work, and really learned like a lot of the cyber regulations that I deal with today.
All right, next up, if you don't know her, you should, and she is the Mary Galloway.
Good morning, everybody. Mary here from Las Vegas. I got my start in cybersecurity and tech back in 2009 at a company called Accenture as a network engineer, and I've worked in various different government roles, private sector. I currently work for a big security vendor doing SOC automation. I also run the Women's Society of Cyberjitsu, and we'll talk a little bit about that throughout the panel. So happy to be here, happy to see everybody. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you, ma'am. Love the hair. And next up, we have Matthew. Matthew, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Coming to you from Chicago. Matt Braun. I am the somewhat newly minted Director of Security at Fly.io. We're a Series C cloud startup. Prior to that, I spent almost 11 years at NCC Group, first as a sysadmin, then through pen testing, and then finally as a regional vice president. In terms of how I got into the field, I started off an undergrad in computer science left technology to go into finance, got laid off, fell back onto being a sysadmin, and a friend of mine from high school who, we worked at ISPs back in the day, said, you should come over and be a sysadmin over at Montesano. And then it was just off to the races. Montesano got bought, and there we had it. So by luck, built and friends.
Nice, nice. And last but not least, we have the queen of world domination, CEO of Black Girls Hack, Tanisha Martin. Tanisha, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Excited to be here. I'm originally from DC, but I live in Virginia. I got started in tech probably many years ago that I don't want to admit that I'm that old. But I actually got my first job in cybersecurity through Matt. He actually hired me at NCC as a pen tester. So I am forever grateful to him for that. And then I also started doing cybersecurity like workshops through Marion Cyberjitsu probably like a smooth decade ago. So I'm excited to be here, and let's go.
All right, I love it. I love the energy. I also love that all of you had a different path from me because I kind of stumbled into it. I was an aircraft mechanic in the military, came out and literally had no idea. And shout out to my wife because she put her foot in my behind and told me to go do something that I enjoy. And that's how I kind of stumbled into tech. So shout out to her. If you're watching anywhere, I love you. But when I do talk to people, I do say one of the mistakes that I made is that I didn't follow the tech and jump into cybersecurity sooner. And if that is one thing I wish I could have done differently. So to the panelists, I guess the next follow-up question is, what is something that you wish you knew in the field before you got in early on? Anyone can go first.
I'll start off. I'll say that, I wasn't going to get what I needed as far as getting a job in cybersecurity through my education. I'm not saying not to go get degrees, but I'm saying having done multiple degrees, including in cybersecurity, they're not teaching hands-on keyboard types of things, which is what a lot of jobs want you to have. So, I would say, no matter where you're at in your career, start putting hands on keyboard, spend your time trying to get it together now.
Matthew, how about you? Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, what's interesting that I wish I knew earlier in my career was the ability to synthesize my thoughts and be able to either speak and write with precision, clarity, and brevity. I think that's something that as I've matured into this career and doing more of leadership and management roles, that I think has been very beneficial. I wish I learned earlier on how to do that.
And I'll jump in and say it was less what I didn't know, it's what I didn't do. As I said, I left the field because I wasn't really looking to do hands-on keyboard programming work. I wish I'd done more of that because even though I knew how to code, when I came into the security field, I didn't have as much experience with the overall business processes that live around making software, shipping things into production, the economics behind it. I had to pick that up. So I wish I had spent some least time actually developing a product or being in-house writing code.
For me, I think it was, I feel like if I went back to my past self, it would be take more initiative, reach out more, come out of the shell. Like people think I'm extroverted and I am, but I'm also like, just leave me alone, let me do the work by myself type of person. So
that
I
hit
can
different.
piggyback on that. I definitely wish I had more confidence. I just realized I didn't say where I worked. So I'm a senior security programmer at Twitter. And so because I didn't come in with any IT or cyber experience when I came into the field, I didn't have the confidence that I feel like I should have had because I did have a lot of transferable skills to really kind of build up my network early in my career. So that's something I've kind of been doing like retroactively, but if I could go back in time, I wish I would have started from day one, really being confident, introducing myself to people and really building a solid network and kind of relying on the skills that I know that I have and being confident when I speak.
I love the answers, especially with Sandra and Mary saying, being able to have more initiative. I would probably say that was something for me too. I definitely struggled. I tried asking for help, didn't get the help, figured I was just going to do everything, dealt with burnout, which is something that I'm sure we've all experienced. So I would also say, I wish I had learned to pace myself as well as taking that initiative. But We're going to go ahead and peel a Band-Aid off real quick, and we're going to address something that we should all be aware of, that I think part of the reason for the apprehension and maybe some of the issues that we dealt with were because, you know, we are a minority in in this field, and, you know, we try to work very hard to make things work and be successful and try not to step on too many toes. Now, thankfully, I will say that it has gotten better in the years that I've been in, but we do need some work. So with that being said, the next question would be, in 3 words or less, describe the state of cybersecurity careers for Black people as you see it. Who wants to jump first?
I can hop in here. I'm going to use one word, and I'm going to say opportunity. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Black people to get into cyber. You know, as Jumoke said earlier, like there's so many roles that are going unfulfilled. And I've been in this industry for about 8 years now, and I've only worked with one other Black female in cybersecurity who's also on the call. Shout out to Hiba. But there's a lot of opportunities. So, you know, if we continue to build up our skills and our confidence in ourselves, you know, knowing that this is a field that's constantly changing. So, you know, any time is a good time to jump in and just kind of stay current. You know what I mean? There's plenty of opportunities out there for Black people.
Maybe I'll go a little spicy. I'll use one word: uncertain. I like the opportunistic view, but uncertain, because I think there are, my hypothesis is that while we are looking for new entry graduates and senior graduates and senior level talent, how do we get people into those spots is the other part. So there are a lot of open roles. I do see that, but then how do we get the people in those roles is the bigger question I'm trying to figure out.
So I only need 2. My 2 words are reach back. I heard that we got Twitter on the line. I saw Netflix, Palo Alto, Fly.io. I forget where you work for, Davin, but I would say that regardless, once you get to there, once you've arrived, you're never, you know, too early in your career to reach back and bring other people along. You know, try to connect people at your job with whatever openings out there in the community. Try to fill those positions with the people of color that you know, that the women, and I think that too many people think that, you know, I have to wait till I get to like the VP level like Matthew, or I have to wait till I get to a director level to be able to affect change. And realistically, you know, you and your system admin can just do a smooth, you know, employee referral and get some people in the door. So, you know, I would say, you know, reach back.
Love it.
I'll hop in and, you know, Charles had a spicy take. Mine is a little more angry, I'd say. We're going backsliding in a lot of ways, because there's that meme I saw. It's like, you know, are you okay, babe? You haven't touched your 2020 EDI initiative. It's like the pendulum is swinging back for employers with like return to office and all that jazz. And now they're I'm seeing kind of getting lazy. You know, the outreach and the programs to go and seek and find, discover talent are kind of just drifting by the wayside. So we have to confront that, you know, employers aren't as much looking out to the world to discover new talent as they once were.
Facts.
So can I just add something to that? I feel like in 2023, I heard somebody last week say that diversity is not a luxury that we can afford to have right now. And I think that a lot of companies feel like, you know, it was very big, you know, once there were a lot of events going on like 2020, 21, where it was like, hey, it's important to promote, you know, all of the different others in the industry. But, you know, recently it's like, you know, because the economy is taking a downturn or a change, that people feel like, you know, they don't have to focus on their diversity initiatives anymore. And, you know, I think that that's a problem. I mean, I think that no matter what the economy is doing, it's important that we have, you know, different perspectives, different methods of thought, of thinking, you know, for people in this industry. And I think it's something that needs to be a focus regardless of, you know, how much money is coming in or out.
I agree with all of it. But really what Sandra said about opportunity, we as minorities, as Black people, as women, we have an opportunity right now to pretty much do whatever we want. We just got to go out there and do it. We got to talk to people. We got to network with people. We have to be intentional about what it is that we're doing, right? And if there's companies that aren't hiring, that aren't, you know, fulfilling the need that you need, then you move on from that company. You find somewhere else. You start your own thing. you know? I mean, that's hard too, but at least you can call the shots and do what you want to do. But yeah, opportunity, I think, is the future, is where we're going. There's a lot of opportunity right now.
So I love all the answers, and I'm gonna kind of jump in just real quick. So for one, to the employers out there, we see you, right? So in 2020 and 2021, there were a lot of initiatives, and in 2022, you started to notice it got a little quieter, and in 2023, you don't really hear much about it. Being genuine goes a long way, and we're gonna touch on that a little bit later, but just know that, you know, you're not low. We do see what's going on. And I also agree that there are a lot of opportunities. And to Matthew's point about, you know, they're not taking the initiative, I will piggyback off of that and agree 100%, but I also feel like we need to make sure we equip ourselves. And to Tanisha's point about reaching back, since there's, I mean, literally years of experience on this panel, I think we should really focus on what we can do to also help people gain that experience, and not just from work. Because to Tanisha's point, you get the education, but you still need the hands-on. So what are some things that new cybersecurity professionals can do now to help get that hands-on experience that will lead them to succeed in these future interviews and eventually land a job?
Take my LinkedIn learning course.
Take mine too.
And the others that are on the call are on here.
Cosign.
There's a couple of people on here, you know, take those courses.
Yeah, also, I'd say try Hack Me, Hack the Block. Shameless plug, Black Girls Hack has weekly workshops, hands-on keyboards workshops for people. We even started a blue team workshop this week. So, you know, find a community, find a tribe, find all of the tribes, and start, you know, getting going.
I'm gonna put my shameless plug in there. Black Girls in Cyber. We have a security cohort. We just opened up a privacy one. You know, go get those certifications, get paired with a mentor. And I'll also say kind of look at contract roles. I did say that I started my career with Coca-Cola, and that was actually a contract role. And it was in their IT department. And so I think that, especially with everything that's happening in the market right now with all the layoffs, I think a lot of companies are going to look at their headcount, look at their budgets, and start to put out more roles for contracts from recruiting companies. So I think that that's a great way to kind of get your foot in the door, especially if you're trying to do something entry level. You know, it may not be, you know, hacking or coding right now, but, you know, you could start with some data migration and just have a great company on your resume and be able to kind of lift off from there in a way that you may not have been able to if you were just looking for a full-time role.
And say, you know, you've got a wealth of content out there to learn from. If you're going to some of the larger companies, they'll often have their own kind of internal training programs. Like I just think of Salesforce has their whole trailhead thing that you can do. It's free. And when you get into if you actually can talk to a human being, you say, oh, and I did your course and it was great. And I learned all this stuff. And now you have a bit of camaraderie. So you've actually narrowed the focus of what you're going to study to, you know, what that company has put out the door.
Absolutely. For me, I don't always recommend this, but my Jamaican grandmother used to have a saying that I will loosely translate to do what you can do until you do better. Meaning, you get a role. It may not be the role that you want. It may not be the pen tester or the SOC analyst or something, but if you get your foot in the door and take that opportunity to be a sponge and absorb everything that you can, and also work on what it is that you want to do. So for me, when I decided I wanted to get into cybersecurity, I was working like as a sysadmin / desktop support role for a school system. I started implementing security things in my job to help gain that experience. And then when it got to a point where they no longer were going to support it, I just said, screw them, and started doing it on the side. And I know companies don't want to hear that, but honestly, if you're not going to make the change for them, then you have to be the change you want to see. So sometimes sometimes the long and harder road is the better option to take, as opposed to waiting for someone to open the door for you. Sometimes you might have to just kick the door down yourself. So that's going to be my take on it. Let's see where we are now. I guess since we're here with getting the experience, one of the arguments that we do hear, or debates that we hear about a lot, is the certs versus degrees. Now, we do know hands-on experience is important, but what is your take on certs versus degrees? Charles, why don't you start first? Because I don't think I heard you on the last question.
Well, this one's interesting because I think both matter, but they matter for different backgrounds for different reasons. And like I have a personal bias. Well, I appreciate some of the certs, but I sometimes question how they're targeted to various populations and individuals around how they go about obtaining the certs. Of course, education is a very expensive luxury with regards to how you go about education if you go through a 4-year traditional college or 2-year community college. But with the advent of YouTube University, Coursera, EDX, and the likes, there is some like leveling of the content, at least in the playing field. So I'm a believer of balance, because there are some, I think, certs that are actually really good. But then I also think there are certs that just saturate the market, and I think don't allow for differentiation amongst the folks that actually achieve them. And I think that's where folks get into the idea, well, I got this cert and I was expected to get X job. That may not be the case. And so basically managing that expectation as they go through what's the right path for me. I think there's many paths. So I say that I'm balanced between the two, depending on the certs and the education that you're getting.
Before I pass it on to the next one, I'll definitely say, you know, Charles is right that there is a need for both. But if you are going to go to certification path, make sure you actually learning what it is you're taking. We've seen a lot of stuff on LinkedIn where people are saying, hey, I can help you pass, or people are just studying just to pass the exam because they think X cert will get you Y salary. Case in point, there was a gentleman, I won't name the name, who went and jumped ahead and grabbed an AWS certification for solutions architect and figured this job, because I have this certification, I should get a job paying me $140K. But this person had no other experience. So someone told them, this is all you need. And now you have this mid to senior level certification and you have no experience. So you have nothing to show for it. So make sure you're following it the right way, and also make sure that you're not falling for the trap of, I'm going to get all of these high level certifications, even though I don't have the experience. Case in point, jobs that are saying CISSP for entry level, when the CISSP requires you to have at least 5 years on the job before you can even qualify to take the exam. So let's see, Sandra, what do you think of certs versus degrees?
Well, I think it really depends on the person. Like, first, look at your bank account, you know what I mean? Because degrees are very expensive. And, you know, if you can get the same role getting a certification that might cost like, you know, $2,000 versus going back to school for $50,000, that might be the route for you. There might be some management roles that will require you to have like a master's degree or something like that. You know, that might be a good case for you. I personally lean more towards certifications because I do think that they are more tailored in terms of the content. So I did drop like it's like a graphic that kind of goes through like all the different certs that are available based off of your domain area, and then kind of based off the level of expertise as well, beginner, intermediate, expert, you know. So I would definitely like do research first, and then also kind of look at the different roles that you want to have, and go on LinkedIn and look at people's profiles that have that same similar title, and look to see like, you know, what certifications they have, what degrees they had, and everything, because I think a lot of people don't realize just how diverse thought is in cyber. So, you know, you might have people that have degrees that have nothing to do with cyber whatsoever. And you might have people that are just stacked on certs. So I think it really just does depend on, you know, what you're looking for in your career.
Absolutely. Yeah, pay attention to what your career trajectory you want it to be, because like you don't want to start with like A+ and then everything and then move and get sysadmin stuff and then move here. And so make sure, so do your research. That's definitely a good piece of advice. So we have a couple other questions we're going to get to, and then hopefully we can wrap up or get to some Q&A. So since we're talking about certain degrees and getting the experience, the name of the game is to get a job, right? Or to have the skills for the jobs that they need. So what in your profession, or what in your experience, what are some emerging trends in cybersecurity that you believe will be particularly important for new professionals to understand and prepare for? So for example, AI is the big thing right now. What do you see for new and upcoming professionals to probably get a handle on that will help them land that job?
Ooh, I like to take a stab at
Everybody's
this.
saying cloud.
I think one of the things that I transitioned into GRC probably about 4 years ago, coming from like a malware background. And one of the things that I'm noticing lately is the ability to do some form of statistical analysis on risk, and being able to put like dollar values on the controls that security teams are either developing, or the return on investment that they're doing with security controls they're buying. So I think there's a push to have some more statistical modeling within security, sort of bridging some of that data science element, some of that risk quantification, risk quant work into more of the GRC to help support like compliance as code and policy as code from a GRC perspective. So I'm seeing some of that trends even in my new college graduate interns that I'm seeing. So I'm seeing that over the last 3 years.
All right. Let's see. Matthew, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matthew.
All right. I see a lot in the chat about AI, and I'm kind of bearish on all that. But one thing I'm seeing coming out of my consulting days is there's not much out there that allows for a company to do an oversight over all their SaaS products and how they knit together. Like if I said, I want you to pen test my entire SaaS estate, maybe I can say, look at this one product and how I interface with it, but doing the full interconnection through all the products in a holistic view, that was something that firms that I was talking to then in our own firm wasn't really being looked at. And I see some motion in that of how do we get a single 50,000-foot view on our entire on-prem cloud, SaaS, what have you. But I think that's still growing now. So I would look to that as in fact, there was an Airbnb thing that just came out about access control that I was reading earlier today. But yeah, that's a trend I would look to.
Interesting. So on the flip side, the follow-up question, I'm gonna have the three ladies answer that. So on the flip side to that, we need to learn about the emerging trends, but I feel like companies also need to be a little bit more intentional with what they're looking for. Usually they have this laundry list of requirements, and that can also be a barrier of entry for a lot of people. They get intimidated when they try to apply and they're like, I don't have all of this. So if job requirements are a wish list for the employer, then what are some qualifications that you really see that can help beat those barriers? Starting with Tanisha, and then we'll go Mary and then Sandra.
So I'd say problem solving. I see all of the, the laundry list, and, people say you need a CISSP for, entry level job, or that you need this. But I think that what people need to focus more on is their approaches to problem solving, right? Because for the most part, you can teach people about the business. You can teach, in some cases, the technical skills, but, knowing how to deal with people, and then, knowing how to approach problem solving, I think is something that is probably should be more on a wish list than some of the things that I see, which are very specific. If you have, like, hey, this is a pen testing job, then of course you want them to be able to use burp suite, and of course you want them to be able to use, all of the hacking tools, right? But, for example, you don't need a CISSP to be a pen tester. So, what exactly do you need to be good at the job? What does that look like?
Great point, problem solving. I think adaptability. You have to be able to adapt with the way technology changes so quickly, and the way that we're moving so quickly into the cloud, into the AI stuff, and just around that. You have to be able to transition and change. The stuff that I was doing as a network engineer with Cisco routers and switches back in the day, yeah, I may be able to do that, but those are in data centers. They're not in somebody's organization, because everybody's moving away from that physical infrastructure. So being able to adapt and change is definitely something you have to be able to do. Otherwise, you'll get past quick, very quick.
I agree with both answers, and I'm going to double down with a non-technical skill of just interpersonal skills and communication. Similar to Charles, I'm in a GRC role, and a lot of our work is really it's a very cross-functional role where we're speaking with engineers, product managers, we might be speaking with the third-party risk team, and we're really trying to change the culture and getting people to shift their processes to implement more security practices into them. And so a lot of times, like, you're asking people either to do more work that is in addition to what they're already doing, or change things, you know what I mean? So like, if you're coming in and you're aggressive, you don't know how to build a relationship with folks, you're just demanding things, people are not going to be very receptive to you. So not only do you need to like have that technical expertise to be able to have and hold that conversation, but really you need to have the interpersonal skills to be able to be empathetic, understand where they're coming from, to be able to solve those problems, to stay adaptable and be able to have those conversations with different people and know, like, with this person, I might need to have a softer approach with them. With this person, I might need to be more logical and critical with them, so it's a bit of a game, you know what I mean? But I do want to stress more on the soft skills, even though I hate that word. I think they're really the core skills of any role, but I think that's important in this field.
No, absolutely. Soft skills are important, especially for me as a pen tester. I have to talk to different crowds. I have to talk to the technical crowd. I have to talk to the C-level executives. I have to talk to people who aren't technical at all sometimes. So you have to know how to do that. And then you also have to know, like you said, to navigate the audience. When I first came from consulting, everything was, this is your vulnerabilities. This is what you have to do. Get it done now. When I started working at an AppSec shop, I couldn't do that with the developers. They would call me some names that I'd probably get in trouble if I repeated here. So, but with that being said, so we talked about getting into the job. We talked about what you need to get your foot in the door, the experience, the soft skills, the adaptability, and everything. But one of the issues that companies are also having is people staying and having retention issues. So in your opinion, why do you think people are leaving the field? And also, what can we do to fix those retention issues? I have a rant, but I'm gonna leave it to y'all to go first.
I can chime in here and say, I think there's an implied value that retention or people leaving the field is inherently bad, right? Because, for example, I went in-house, and now, so I'm not consulting and I'm doing more than just security. I'm having more oversight over infrastructure and kind of GRC policy stuff. So it may be that people are leaving to go, say, do pure development, or maybe they're going to do their own consulting thing that's around, I don't know, sourcing tools and technology. Leaving doesn't imply a loss to them. They may be going to a better place. So I think that's the one question. Are people going and being happy, or are they going and because their standards are going down?
That's okay. Anyone want to follow up on that one?
I think that's a statement and I stand by it. Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, everybody.
Preach.
Mic drop.
But I did hear a really good talk on mentorship versus sponsorship. And I'm kind of in that like mid-level career where, you're trying to push up to that like director level. And like a lot of times, like that's where you kind of start to see the color kind of drop off when you're looking at an org chart. And so I think that it's especially difficult to find sponsorship when you are like a person of color, like someone that is in leadership, probably a couple levels above you, that can speak for you in rooms that you can't enter. So I think like really, if more companies kind of allowed for that sponsorship, or if more people were able to find that sponsorship, they may get to the level they're trying to get to without hitting that burnout and dip out phase. You know what I mean? So to be able to kind of pull past a certain level rather than leave, because I've left many roles because I just saw that, it's not moving any further. I'm not going up any higher, and I don't see that in the current industry right now. So why am I staying?
Agreed. I see a lot of people in the chat talking about poor leadership, and I'm going to go there a little bit. So rant incoming. So for me, I feel like it goes back to the word that I said earlier, being genuine, the genuine advocacy, the genuine mentorship, the genuine leadership. Once you get to a certain point, for me, I've noticed in a lot of shops, after you get to a certain point, they just kind of expect certain things of you. They don't give you the resources. They don't expect you to ask for the resources. And I don't know if it's a feeling threatened thing that you might be coming for their job or something, but I do notice that there's a drop off once you start to be a little bit more, I guess, independent, self-sufficient, and goal-oriented. For me, we talk about, especially with everything going on in 2020, where people are like, hey, I'm not happy here, I'm out. Yeah, some people do leave for greener pastures, but at the same time, the question should be asked, why are they leaving? What can we do differently? What should we do differently? And actually pay attention and take notes and listen and have that discourse. I think too many people get caught up in their own minds or their own greatness when they run a company and don't actually want to pay attention to the people. So look, rant was a little bit short, so we're good. We're still good on time.
So to co-sign on this, right? I don't think it's just a management issue. I think that a lot of times within specifically our community, we have a very, crab in a barrel type mentality where we feel like there's only so much shine, there's only so much power, there's only so much money, right? And when we have people who actually get to those positions, they feel like, hey, my company's woman quota has been met by me. If I bring somebody else along, then that's, basically they're going to be replacing me. And, I've seen when I came, started making moves in this industry, and I'm reaching out to other organizations, other people like, hey, we can work together. We're stronger together. I've had some people like, Mary, who are like, hey, accept me with open arms. Let's do this. Let's stronger together. And then I've had other organizations and other people who were just like, well, they feel threatened, or they feel like, we're not going to, if you get money, then we can't get it. Or if you get, the jobs, then we can't get them, and I feel like, we need to make sure that we are, realizing there's enough of all of those things for everybody. We need to work together because, if we don't work together, like we see a lot of other communities do, to support our community, both economically in terms of jobs and, security, then, we're not going to be able to, we're going to be continue to be so far behind a lot of other organizations or a lot of other groups. I mean,
you lucky I don't have my soundboard activated right now because we're going to have
what she said.
All right, I love the answers, and I love the response from everybody. I love the love we're getting in the chat. I just love love. Final question. And I, take your time with it, but not too much time because I want to run out of time. What are some cyber-related policies that you would like to see implemented, or if they're already implemented, you would like to see changed?
So I got one, and Tanisha, you're closer to this than I am these days, but insurance, right? Like apparently pricing on cyber insurance is going through the roof, but there's no PCI that I saw for securing an org, right? Everybody's got their own kind of VSQ questionnaire for how is your organization. It's not portable. So as a provider of security service, we couldn't go in and be like, we will help make you compliant so that you can then shop a plan around. It was always bespoke for every insurer. I'd like to see some degree of consolidation of that. So then now the insurance companies can help bankroll for it before they get owned up, or not bankroll, but like help encourage hygiene and process beforehand.
So I've been seeing a lot of insurance companies that are saying basically they're going to stop, insuring a lot of things, as far as breaches and things of that nature, just simply because of the fact that, people aren't basically doing what they need to be doing to, it's like each person is responsible, right? So you're not doing what you need to do, but we're insuring you, but then there's breaches that are happening. And it's like, I would absolutely love to see, more organizations focusing on security and not just in a, it's cheaper for me to mitigate this through insurance as opposed to actually taking steps towards providing security, focusing, in terms of their budgets and their efforts and, actually mitigating more risks specific to your business.
I would like to add that something I would like to see is maybe some consolidation on how we report and articulate the investments that we're making. Some standardized taxonomies to understand like what is the actual impact of the work that we're doing when it comes to the security investments that's happening. So we can measure this just at how the insurance industry has actuarial sciences and data sciences to sort of price out things. It'd be interesting to see what would be the cybersecurity equivalent of understanding what is the true cost of single factor, multi-factor authentication for an identity. How does that look like from a data privacy standpoint with regards to the data of collecting PII? What does actually network and zero trust truly mean from a productivity and security standpoint? If there are ways that we could articulate and demonstrate and measure these things in a way that other people can consume, I think that could also help in terms of the storytelling that I think security provides for the business.
I think one thing that I would like to see changed or different is more around vulnerability research and reporting of vulnerabilities and the consequences of doing that if you don't have permission. I'm working on some stuff now with some people around this, but researchers tend to, whether they're good or bad, will get a bad rap, get in trouble, go to jail for finding vulnerabilities that, let that data leak that they're looking at. And so finding different policies and procedures around how to handle that, no matter what the intention is, was it something that needed to be fixed? Did you know about it already? Why didn't you fix it? Having fines for those kind of things, getting into bug bounty programs and making sure that you don't have those kind of problems. I'd like to see something around that.
Charles, I would love to talk with you later about this measurement in GRC. That is fantastic. One thing I would like to see more is protections over our data. You know what I mean? Like, I know CCPA is out there and it's decent, you know what I mean? But I think we're just straggling way behind when you look at the rest of the world and some of the protections they have over our digital selves, just because I don't think people understand just how invasive it can be and just how accurate it can be in describing who you are as a person. And so the same way, like we protect our financial data and our health data, like I think that we should protect our digital data as well. And I know it exists, but I do want to see it be more robust.
Okay. I have two things. One, to Mary's point, as far as how we respond and report vulnerabilities from a pen tester side of things, that definitely hits home, because you definitely have companies who will take it and not do anything with it. You have what we call scope creep. I've literally worked for agencies where they've literally changed the scope just because they didn't like the finding and didn't want to fix it. I feel like there should definitely be some regulation around that. But mine really, I will say 4 words, and this is for the companies: invest in your people. That's it. I think a lot of the questions that we've had would be answered and dealt with from the retention, the training, everything, if you just invest in your people, increase training, make it beneficial for them. I think with the insurance things, if you can go, I think with insurance companies, if you come back and say, hey, we have these people who are trained, this is all the stuff we're doing. It's just like if you have running daytime headlights on your car, right? You get a discount on your insurance. I feel like they should have certain things like that in place as well, where we show these are the initiatives that we're taking, but we have to take the initiative. Is stop doing phishing stuff just for the sake of phishing stuff, right? We know every 6 months you're going to get a phishing exercise. Actually put some training and manpower behind it to get the people to understand why they're doing it and how you can stop it and what to look for. Clicking a link is way beyond clicking a link now. I can make letters I can make the characters look like other letters and make it look believable. Right? Coming from a hacker, from a hacker, I can do these things that is like, is that a dot or is that something else? Oh, okay, I'm just going to click it because it looks legitimate. Actually invest in your people and get the training in there. Incentivize the training and stuff. Make it worth their while. A lot of us have lives. I have 2 other businesses that I'm running. I have a wife, 2 teenagers. Like, I don't want to always be sitting here reading 1,000-page books on my off time. Maybe actually take some time and say, hey, when you're not busy, here's some training and development time for you. Focus on that. I need to see more companies doing that. If you invest in your people, then guess what? You're going to boost the morale, and I guarantee you're going to boost the retention. Rant over.
Can I
So
just add you on that? This is something that I dealt with in previous role as well. But even if you're not going to spend, the companies aren't going to spend the money to develop the core training, a roadmap. Especially for early career folks who don't necessarily know where they want to go or how to, or maybe they know where they want to go, but don't have that path. Say, look, you want to get here. Here is a sequence to follow.
yeah,
Just even that alone, I think would have a great benefit to get early career people.
agreed. But I'm gonna say, for all of us here, because I know we all do it, we need more of us on the outside to also do that, because they're going to give you those. A lot of these companies, again, going back to that word genuine, they're going to give you their roadmap. We need to sit down with a bunch of people of all around and say, what is it that you want to do? Where do you see yourself? And then work on that. We have the knowledge. We have we have it. There's YouTube. There's all these other places. We really need to implement it. And I feel like stuff like this that Jamoke is doing here, be the change we want to see. You have Mary, you have Tanisha here. I have my platform. We all have platforms and training courses. Reach out to us. Don't be scared. There's no such thing as a dumb question unless you're just saying, hey, is this a dumb?
Or don't ask it. That's a dumb question.
You know, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Very true. Shoot your shot, right, Tanisha?
With that being said, I want to thank all of you, Charles, Matthew, Sandra, Tanisha, V. Mary Galloway. I have been your host, Davin Jackson, and I am going to hand it back to Jamoke. And thank you all for watching and taking part in this today.
Thank you, Davin. Oh, thank all of you. You guys were great. Such great information, insight. I'm a mid-career pivoter into to cybersecurity, so I'm still, figuring out my path, and it's been just so great. One, interacting with you and just hearing your insight in the industry. So quickly, I just want to, we have 2 questions in Q&A. There were some that were already answered, so I will not read them, but let's just try to quickly get through these 2. On one hand, there are lots of security job openings out there, with many companies complaining that hiring security talent is very difficult. On the other hand, security vendors and companies have laid off a large portion of their security staff amid the economic downturn. Why do we have this paradox? How should security professionals better navigate the current economic downturn? Does anyone want to take that question?
So I'll take a go. I think that we could think about the cybersecurity industry as a balloon. We kept blowing air, and we kept the salaries kept getting more and more inflated. That we were hiring more people, and I think at some point it was going to, it was going to burst. Right? We still have, as you started this conversation with, double the amount of cybersecurity positions open that we had in, previous years. And I think the discrepancy is that, people are not able to continue to do things the way that they have been doing in the previous years when people were mostly in the house, right? Ways that we operate businesses have changed. And I think that's affected our ability to be able to pay, some of these folks, the amazing amounts of money that people were getting paid before. So that's, I think, plays a part.
I'm going to go and say, going back to the word genuine, but it has to be genuine on both sides. Again, knowing what you want to get into, because a lot of the things that's happened over the last 2-3 years is a lot of professionals said, I'm going to jump into cybersecurity for the bag, and did not realize that there's a lot of work that comes into it. And then it's like, oh, that's something I didn't prepare myself for. And then you leave. Which probably increases the numbers. And then you have companies who, again, aren't genuine with their employees as far as what they're looking for, what they want, what they need, and people jump ship. I mean, like Tanisha said, the market is not the same anymore. And the days of working 30, 40, 50 years to get a watch when you retire, unfortunately, that's dead. So, you have to make it worth their while to stay, and they need to make it worth your while to keep them. So
I would also say, though, that the bag is still there, though. Like, if you have the right attributes and you have the right skill sets and training, and you're actually putting the investment to be a craft, like treat it as a craft, like the bag will be there and will follow you throughout your career.
But that's the thing that they don't seem to understand, is that once you attain the skills, you don't have to worry about the bag. The bag will come. Don't chase it. You're going to chase it in the beginning, but as you get the skills, it'll get there. Like, I'm not worried about if I get, I'm not going to say if I get laid off tomorrow, I'm not going to worry about it because I still got bills to pay. But I know I have the right skills that I can then say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I have, this is what I demand. Let's work it out.
But I think we also have people out here who are selling the dream of, if you interview like this, if you, say these right words, you hit these right things on your resumes, then you can be able to get the job. So they're actually, we're teaching the job rec, or we're teaching the HR process, and not necessarily the skills that are needed to, survive long term, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, when we're talking about so many people who were out here like, I'm getting the bag, right? But then they don't have the skills that they need, to your point, Davin, to thrive long term, right? Which is why we're starting to see some of this deflating of the balloon, as we've gotten so many people into the industry.
And speaking on HR, I do think that there needs to be better communication and partnership between the HR teams and the technology teams that are writing these job recs, because a lot of them are not accurate for the role, or a lot of them are trying to combine multiple roles into one job rec and having someone just be a unicorn that kind of knows a little bit of everything. And a lot of them are asking for entirely too many years of experience, when we already know that there's not enough population of people that have that years of experience, but every single role you're putting out has 5 to 8 years of experience. It's not attainable, it's not feasible. I think more companies need to invest in their people and put more entry-level roles out there, put out more internships, so that you can have people grow into these roles and become those unicorns that you're looking for, and not expecting that right off the bat.
No, thank you. That's very, very valid point, Sandra. Okay, let's try to get to this last question, and if maybe one or two of you can chime in if you have the question. It just disappeared. There was a question about knowledge or training suggestions to get into the transportation industry within cyber for risk management and architecture. So any resources, or anyone know of anything someone can do to get into that space, the transportation industry?
So I posted a response in the chat, but I just pointed to some of the research from my old employer and Tanisha's current employer, NCC Group's transport practice. Going through those papers might be useful, just to even get another set of resources to add to the pile.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think this has been a fruitful conversation. Thank you again to all of the amazing speakers. Thank you to all of the attendees that joined us today. We really hope that you have gained some knowledge and that you were able to connect with the speakers as well. Feel free to connect with me as well. I'll drop my LinkedIn. But thank you. And if you're interested in learning more about Making Space and CyberBase, I sent the link. Feel free to join us. This is sponsored in part by Craig Newmart and Ford, and we invite you to just come along with us, join the community that's growing with CyberBase experts, and stay tuned for more programs. But thank you again for joining us, and if you want to, we have a minute or two, I'll stay behind and answer any questions. But if not, again, thank you, Davin, thank you, Charles, thank you, Matthew, Sandra, Tanisha, and Mary, for all of your information. It was a great conversation.
Oh, InfoSec Plug live on Thursdays.
Okay, yeah. Well, anything else that you want to plug, feel free to plug it before we go.
I posted in the chat, but Wicked 6 is coming up next month. It's a 24-hour cybersecurity game event across the world. Tanisha is going to be speaking on that. 3,000 women are going to be on it. If you want to speak at a conference, CyberJitsuCon's call for papers is open right now. The conference is going to be June 24th in the Northern Virginia area, and I hope to see all of you submit something. And our nominations for awards is open as well. So make sure you submit. You can visit our websites.
Excellent. Okay, well, everyone is signing out. So again, thank you all for joining us today and stay tuned for more information. We will share this video with all of the attendees, so you can feel free to pass it along. So thank you all and talk to you.